Imagine a situation familiar to every man who has blood running through his veins, not distilled water. It is the middle of an ordinary day. You are downtown. Around you is noise, bustle, hundreds of people rushing about their business. You are walking too, immersed in your own thoughts. Maybe you are replaying a work conversation in your head, thinking about upcoming car repairs, or just planning your evening. Your mind is occupied with routine. Your gaze is unfocused. You are scanning the space on autopilot just to avoid bumping into passersby. Your security system is dormant. You are calm. You are rational. You are in control of the situation. And suddenly, in a split second, everything changes. Your internal radar sounds a piercing alarm. Your gaze, as if magnetized, picks out a single object from the gray crowd. It happens faster than you have time to think. Your head turns by itself. Your eyes focus on one point with the precision of a sniper scope. What happened? Did you see a woman? Not exactly. You didn't see a face. You didn't notice her hair color. You didn't even evaluate her chest. Your gaze fell lower, to where the torso ends and the legs begin. She is walking towards you. She is wearing the most ordinary blue jeans. Thick fabric, rough seams, nothing festive. But the way those jeans fit her triggers a chain reaction in your brain. You see how her feet are placed almost in a single line with each step, as if she is walking on a tightrope. But higher up, where the thighs should merge into a single monolith, you see it. The gap. The magical triangle of emptiness. A narrow strip of air that separates her legs at the very top. Sunlight or streetlights break through this breach. The contrast is stunning. Dark denim fabric on the edges and a bright spot of light in the middle. It looks like an architectural arch, like an entrance to some forbidden city. And at that moment, your brain shuts off logic. All your thoughts about work, business, problems, all of it evaporates. Only this visual corridor remains. You follow her with your gaze until she disappears from sight. You feel a strange, viscous excitement in the pit of your stomach. It is not just a desire for intimacy. It is something deeper, more ancient, as if you saw water in the desert after 3 days of thirst. And then, when the spell breaks, the hangover comes. You pull yourself together. You are a grown man. You are 40, 50, maybe 60 years old. You have gray at your temples, life experience behind you, perhaps a wife and adult children. You are a respected person, and you start asking yourself uncomfortable questions. What is wrong with me? Why am I acting like a teenager? Why am I staring at this zone of a strange woman in the middle of the street? Is this normal? You start comparing. There is your wife, the beloved woman with whom you have been through fire and water. She has a wonderful figure, but over the years, her body has changed. Her hips have become softer, heavier. They have closed up. That golden window has disappeared, giving way to a cozy, maternal density. And you love her, but your gaze no longer clings to her silhouette as predatorily as before. And here, on the street, some stranger just walked by, just flashed that gap, and you are ready to follow her to the ends of the earth. You feel guilt. You feel like you are betraying your principles. But let's stop. Take a deep breath. Exhale that guilt. I am here to tell you one fundamental thing that can change your attitude toward yourself. You are normal. What happens in your head at that moment is not a sign of promiscuity. It is not a sign of a midlife crisis. And it is certainly not perversion. It is the voice of your biological program. It is the work of an ancient scanner that nature embedded in your brain millions of years ago, back when our ancestors were still running around the savannah with stone axes. Think about it. Why did evolution give men eyes? To admire sunsets? No. Our eyes are a tool for survival and reproduction. We are the descendants of those males who could instantly, in a split second, evaluate 2 parameters, danger and opportunity. Those who thought for too long and analyzed their rich inner world simply did not pass on their genes. Those who survived and multiplied were the ones who reacted to visual markers instantly. And this gap between the thighs is one of the most powerful visual markers in human history. This is not fashion. Fashion changes every decade, but the reaction to the arch remains unchanged for millennia. Archaeologists find ancient figurines, and even there, sculptors emphasize the triangle of the loins and the divergence of the thighs. It is hardwired into the subcortex. The paradox of the modern world is that women spend enormous effort to create this effect, They go to gyms, doing endless squats and stretching. They choose jeans with cuts specifically tailored to visually spread the legs. Why? Because they know. On an instinctive level, every woman knows. This gap is her main weapon. It is her way of declaring herself without words. It is her fishing hook, which we men have bitten, are biting, and will continue to bite. Today we will take a journey inside your subconscious. We will analyze this phenomenon not from the point of view of glossy magazines, but from the point of view of harsh male logic and biology. We will understand why this triangle of light acts on us like hypnosis, why it promises us not just contact, but a certain quality of that contact, why it is associated with youth, even if the woman is over 40. And, most importantly, we will analyze why wives close up over the years, while mistresses and random passers-by shine. I want you to stop being ashamed of your gaze after this conversation. I want you to understand the mechanics of your attraction, because knowledge is not just power. Knowledge is peace of mind. When you understand why the gears in your head turn exactly that way, you stop fighting windmills. You start simply enjoying the view. You accept your nature as a hunter who sees the target. Before we start dissecting this phenomenon, take one small action. This is your entry ticket. If you have ever in your life, walking down the street or scrolling through the feed on your phone, stopped your gaze on this gap, feeling that very prick of desire, hit the like button. Let's see how many of us real, living men are here who are not afraid of our instincts. And if you want to know about women what psychologists are silent about, subscribe. And now, to the point. Part 1. The architecture of seduction. The visual vector. Let's start with the foundation, with how your vision works. You have probably noticed that the male gaze works completely differently from the female one. A woman sees the image as a whole. She evaluates clothes, colors, style. The male gaze is a laser. It is a vector. It is a straight line that always seeks a point of application of force. We are creatures of goal setting. We need to know where to look and where the main prize is located. And here nature played a cruel but beautiful joke on us, creating the phenomenon of the thigh gap. From the point of view of dry geometry, what do we see? When a woman stands with her heels together, but her thighs do not touch, her legs form a perfect V shape. These are not just lines. It is an arrow. It is a natural pointer. Two powerful lines of the inner surface of the thighs rise from the bottom up and inexorably converge at a single point, at the geometric center of the female body. Your brain reads this silhouette instantly. It works like road markings. The lines dictate the direction of your gaze. You cannot resist this vector. You start the inspection from the ankles. Your gaze slides higher, accelerates along this corridor, and crashes with full force into the apex of the triangle, to where the lines converge, to where the prize is located. Even if a woman is dressed in thick winter jeans, this geometry works flawlessly. The gap creates this vector. It tells your subconscious, look here. The most important thing is here. It is an optical trap. You fall into it like a ball into a pocket. And this is the first reason why you can't just slide your gaze past. You are being led. You are being directed. You are being forced to focus on the epicenter of femininity, using elementary laws of perspective. The phenomenon of the Rubin vase. Why emptiness is more important than matter. Now let's delve into the psychology of perception. There is a famous experiment called the Rubin vase. You are shown a picture, and depending on your focus, you see either a black vase or two white faces. The brain itself chooses what to consider the figure and what the background. The same magic happens with female legs. When a woman has full, tightly closed thighs, your brain sees an object, legs. It is a solid mass. It is a wall. There is nothing for your gaze to latch onto. But as soon as a gap appears, a switch occurs. Your brain stops perceiving the legs as the main object. The main object becomes this emptiness between them, this piece of air, this triangle of light. The background becomes the figure. Why does this hit the male brain so hard? Because emptiness is space for fantasy. Solid matter is a fact, but a gap is a possibility. Your imagination instantly occupies this free space. You start mentally filling it. This triangle of light works like a keyhole. You seem to see nothing, but the very fact of the keyhole's existence forces you to press your eye against it. This effect is amplified in motion or with backlighting. Imagine, she walks against the sun. Her legs become dark silhouettes. But between the thighs, a bright light flashes. It outlines the contours. It highlights the inner surface of the thigh. You see this glowing triangle. It is mesmerizing. It looks like the light at the end of a tunnel. It seems to you that there, in this gap, lies the source of some higher energy. Open and closed forms. In nature, there are closed and open forms. Our ancient brain reads them automatically. Closed thighs are a closed form. It is a fortress wall with the drawbridge raised. It is a stop signal. Visually, it looks like a monolith. When you see a woman with tightly pressed legs, on the level of deep instincts, you read tension. A barrier. Now look at the gap. It is an open form. It is an arch. It is a gate whose leaves are not fully closed. Even if the woman stands modestly, this gap at the top sends a treacherous signal. It screams, the path is clear. Visually, the obstacle does not exist. Where armor should be, there is air. There is a passage. For a man, this works like a green light trigger. We are conquerors, but we are lazy conquerors. Our brain always looks for the path of least resistance. When we see an open arch, we get a dose of dopamine just from anticipation. It seems to us that this woman is more accessible for contact. It seems to us that it will be easier to negotiate with her. This is a colossal illusion. In reality, the presence of a gap depends only on bone structure, not on character. She can be an impregnable fortress, but her body sends a welcome signal. And we fall for this signal because millions of years of evolution have taught us. If you see an open door, walk through it. Aesthetics of contrast. Hard and soft. There is one more nuance for men over 45. The play of contrasts. Look at what this gap looks like. Usually, it is framed by the inner part of the thigh, where the skin is taut and the muscles are toned. We see a combination of soft feminine curves on the outside and strict lines on the inside. Closed full legs are often associated with looseness, with something homey, cozy. But legs with a gap are a taut string. It is tension. It is energy. An older man often lacks exactly this energy. And when we see this drawn bow, we subconsciously want to charge ourselves from it. It seems to us that this woman is a battery. That contact with her will invigorate, make the blood run faster. That is exactly why we get so stuck on slender girls. It's not that we don't love our wives. It's that this geometric triangle promises us drive. It promises us a return to those times when we ourselves were full of strength. Looking at this gap, we see our own reflection in youth there. Part 2. The biological scanner of the male. Now let's put aesthetics aside and talk about survival. About what is hardwired into your DNA. Your inner primate sees in this gap a report on the health and genetic potential of the female. For him, this is a medical chart displayed on a full screen. Let's break down the mechanics. Where does this gap come from? It is not just a question of diet. It is all about the bones. The skeleton. A gap in the upper part of the thighs, when the feet are closed, is possible only in one case. If the woman has a naturally wide pelvis and the thigh bones are attached to it at a specific angle. The wider the attachment points of the legs are set, the greater the likelihood of forming this arch. Anatomy of a wide chassis. What does this mean for your instinct? A wide pelvis is a guarantee. It is a wide chassis. For the subconscious, this is a signal that the birth canal is spacious, that this woman will be able to carry and bear offspring. In the wild, a narrow pelvis often meant trouble. We, men, are descendants of those who chose wide hips. A wide pelvis itself is not always visible under clothes, but the gap is an indicator. If you see an arch, the brain builds a chain. There is a gap dash, means the pelvis is wide dash, means she is suitable for procreation. Bingo! Your reward system injects dopamine. Lack of fat as a marker of freshness. But bone width alone is not enough. There shouldn't be anything extra there. The inner surface of the thigh is a fat depot, the body's strategic reserve. It is the first place fat comes to, and the last place it leaves. When you see a clean gap, your scanner reads, there are no fat reserves in this critical zone. What does this say? High metabolism. Youth. That the body burns energy like a furnace. In the primitive world, this meant that the female was healthy, active, and resilient. For a man over 40, this is the strongest trigger. We ourselves start to get heavy. and subconsciously we look for a source of light energy. A woman with a gap is perceived as a bundle of life. It seems to us that if we touch her, we will be rejuvenated ourselves. The paradox of friction. Why the wife closes up. And now honestly about why over the years we lose that sharp interest in the bodies of our companions. With age, after childbirth, the female body changes. Tissues lose elasticity. Gravity pulls everything down. The golden window zone fills up. The hips close. Friction appears. When the inner surface of the thigh of one leg constantly touches the other, it creates a zone of closure. How does the brain react to this? It reads the signal friction. It is associated with heaviness, with heat, with a lack of air. For instinct, this is a signal. This female has moved into the resting phase. This evokes tenderness but kills predatory passion. Passion lives where there is a deficit. The gap is a ventilation signal. The brain thinks that there, in the zone of the prize, a fresh wind is blowing. That it is clean there. It is associated with virgin purity, even if the woman has rich experience. The visual non-contact of the thighs creates the illusion that no one has touched this woman yet, that she is brand new. This is a novelty trigger that drives a man crazy who is tired of routine. The hourglass trap. There is another nuance. We know about the hourglass figure. Wide hips, narrow waist. But it is the gap that completes this composition. It makes the lower part of the hourglass not a massive pedestal, but an elegant stand. The combination of wide pelvis plus gap is a jackpot. The woman looks powerful, capable of giving birth, but at the same time fragile. You see both the mother and the mistress at once. Two instincts merge at one point. In this triangle of light, you cannot resist this, because you are a product of millions of years of evolution. Your ancestors chose exactly such women, and you carry this program within you. Part 3. Psychology of Emptiness. Entrance to the subconscious. We've discussed eyes and hormones, but there is also the psyche. A famous Austrian researcher who studied libido derived a formula. A man is attracted not so much by the presence of an object as by the opportunity to interact with it. And here the law comes into force. Nature abhors a vacuum. Vacuum theory. Look at this gap philosophically. What is it? It is nothing. It is a vacuum. But the nature of a man is expansion. We are created to master new territories. When you see tightly closed thighs, your inner invader sees a wall. The space is occupied. The woman's flesh itself blocks access. It is a busy signal. But when you see a gap, the brain sees free territory. It sees a vacuum that sucks you in. This space is occupied by no one. An instinct screams, fill this. You want to fill this emptiness with yourself. With your gaze, with your body. It is a reflex. You see a form that requires content. You see a space that was created to be mastered by you. This triangle of emptiness acts like a magnet. It attracts attention with its absence. It is a promise that you can enter there without resistance. The woman shows you nothing, and you are ready to give everything so that this nothing becomes yours. Archetype of the gates. Let's go further. A Swiss student of that Austrian spoke about archetypes, ancient images in our memory. One of the most powerful is the archetype of the gate or arch. In architecture, an arch is a symbol of transition. To pass through an arch means to get into another world. Female legs with a gap form an ideal living arch. When light passes through her thighs, your unconscious sees the entrance to a temple in this. It is not just anatomy. It is the gates. It is the entrance to the place where life is born and where a man receives supreme pleasure. You look at this triangle and feel awe. It seems to you that a secret is hidden behind these gates. That is why the from behind pose, when a woman with such a structure bends over, causes almost religious ecstasy in men. The arch opens up. The gates swing open. You see this vault, and the brain reads it as an invitation to enter. You have been looking for this entrance all your life. Paradox of accessible inaccessibility. But the strongest hook lies in the contradiction. Look what happens. A woman stands in front of you. Her feet are tightly pressed together. This is a pose of modesty, of a good girl. She says, I am holding myself together. But because of anatomy, higher up, the lock does not work. The doors are ajar. A gap forms. We see simultaneously a no signal feet and a yes signal gap. She is closed below but open above. This creates a voyeuristic effect, a keyhole effect. It seems to you that you are seeing what you shouldn't, that this gap is a small secret, a bug in her defense. This awakens excitement. You are not interested in a wide open door. You are interested in a door that seems to be locked, but you see a crack through which light breaks. Light through the curtains. And finally, the light. Why is it called a gap? Because light passes there. Imagine a dark room where the curtains are not fully drawn. A ray of sun beats through the crack. Where will you look? Only at this ray. It is the same with female legs. Clothes are curtains. But the gap is that very ray. It highlights the contours. It creates a halo around the most intimate zone. Psychologically, light is associated with truth and purity. When you see light there, below, it seems to you that this zone is illuminated for you, that it is clean and safe. Your gaze slides along this ray. It creates an illusion of intimate closeness even before you have said hello. Women with full thigh closure are deprived of this option. It is dark there. There is no mystery of light and shadow, but a gap is always a drama played out for you. Part 4. Sensorics and Tactile Promise. We talked about how it looks, but a man is a kinesthetic learner. Our brain knows how to touch with eyes. The secret of the magic of the gap is that it triggers a simulation. Your eyes work like fingertips. You haven't approached the woman yet, but your brain already knows what it feels like. This is the phenomenon of phantom touch. When you see silk, you feel coolness. When you see a gap between thighs, the brain generates a sensation of absolute glide. Let's be honest. What happens when a woman's thighs rub tightly against each other? Friction generates heat and humidity. The skin in the friction zone changes structure, becomes denser. Your subconscious knows, it is hot there, it might be sticky. This grounds the fantasy. Now look at the gap. What does it mean physically? Lack of contact. The inner surfaces of the thighs live autonomously. They do not know rubbing. The skin there remains virgin, preserving the structure of the finest satin. The brain reads this instantly. If I run my hand there, I will meet no resistance. My palm will glide like on ice. This is the promise of a silk road. Microclimate of freshness. Let's move on. Temperature. A man always looks for coolness. Closed thighs are a zone of heat. A gap is a ventilation zone. When you see a triangle of air, the brain reads, it is fresh there. It seems to it that the wind is blowing in this zone. This creates a powerful trigger of purity. It seems to you that this woman smells of ozone, of morning dew. This is pure biology. The male chooses a female who smells of health. The gap is a visual certificate that the woman has no problems with thermoregulation, that she is ventilated. And this phantom smell of freshness acts stronger than perfume. The taut string effect. There is another nuance, elasticity. Look at how the skin behaves on the inner side of the thigh when there is a gap. To hold the legs in such a position, the muscles must be toned. The skin stretches like a drum membrane. Softness is cozy, but taut skin promises resistance. Springiness, the feeling of a young body. Tone turns a man on. We like it when flesh does not hang but rings with tension. The gap creates a string effect. You want to play on this string, run your hand, and feel the vibration of hidden strength. This is a promise that there is energy in her body. Showcase for a diamond. And the most frank promise is the accessibility of the gaze. In women with full thigh closure, the prize is hidden securely. To get to it with a look, you need to push aside obstacles. With women with a gap, everything is different. Even when she stands, you understand, the road is open. There are no obstacles. Between your gaze and her lap, only air. This creates a feeling of proximity. It seems to you that you can touch her right now. It is the feeling of an open showcase. The jewel is not hidden, it is under thin glass. And this anticipation of light contact makes blood rush to the lower abdomen. Part 5. Erotics of Action. The technical aspect. Let's come down to earth, to the bedroom. Why do men who have had experience with such women call it the benchmark? It's about the engineering of the process. It is the ergonomics of pleasure. Rear view. Architecture of an open entrance. Let's start with the classics. When a woman with a gap takes a certain position or bends over, the triangle turns into an arch. The perfect vault. What does this change? In women with full hips, the buttocks are often compressed into a single mass. You work blindly, overcoming the resistance of tissues. With an arch, the situation is the opposite. The buttocks remain two independent hemispheres. The gap provides a panoramic view. You don't just see a back. You see gates. You see the entire mechanics of rapprochement in detail. For a visual man, this is a powerful stimulus. You control the process with your eyes. Ergonomics of intimacy. Now about the physics of bodies. Women with a gap often have a specific pelvic structure. The pubic symphysis is located slightly higher. This is the high clearance effect. In the classic position, this gives an advantage. With fuller ladies, your legs rest against her massive thighs. A buffer arises. With an arch, the buffer disappears. Her legs do not interfere with yours. You can position yourself between them comfortably, pressing with your whole pelvis, bone to bone. The depth increases automatically. You feel the fusion 100%, feeling the warmth of her body with your entire lower abdomen. Ventilation of passion. Intimacy is an energy-consuming process, heat and sweat. When bodies are pressed and the partner's thighs wrap around you in a tight ring, a sauna effect arises. The skin becomes sticky, movements, viscous. The gap works like climate control. Even at the peak moment, an air layer is preserved in the contact zone. Your thighs slide along her thighs without sticking. This creates a completely different movement dynamic. This is not a struggle with a viscous environment, this is gliding. It is easier to keep the rhythm, you feel more resilient. It is a feeling of sporty drive. Accessibility of caress. Freedom of hands. And one more technical point. Hands. In the process, we want to touch, to stimulate. When the thighs are closed tightly, access to the coveted goal with a hand is difficult. The palm is clamped between the bodies. The arch solves the problem. The space is free. You can pay attention to her most sensitive point. You can feel every response of hers without interrupting the main rhythm. You have operational space. This allows you to bring your partner to the peak much faster and brighter. Your brain knows this. Looking at a girl in jeans, it thinks, it will be convenient with her. It will be deep with her. With her, I will see everything. This is the pragmatic calculation of the male. Part 6. The Trap of Civilization. Engineering of Seduction. You might think this is an accident, but modern fashion is visual engineering, the goal of which is to hack your code. Fashion is built around the cult of the arch. The era of leggings and skinny jeans is the era of compression. The fabric tightens the excess and artificially spreads the legs. Even if the hips touch, the right jeans with a rigid seam work like a jack. The seam cuts into the very center of the silhouette, tightening the tissues and creating the geometry of a triangle. Women know this. In the fitting room, they look. Has the window appeared? If yes, they buy the jeans. This is their showcase. Poses and digital hunting. Check social media. You won't see women standing at attention there. A leg is set aside, a knee is bent, pelvis back arched. This is demonstration behavior. The female arches her back to show, I am ready. The path is clear. In the human world, this is a good angle. But the woman mechanically opens the arch as wide as possible. You scroll through the feed, the brain sees hundreds of open gates, and you fall into a loop. It seems to you that the world is full of available women. This is a digital trap. Substitution of concepts. Hunger versus breed. We are so obsessed with the gap that we confuse breed with exhaustion. There is an architectural gap from a wide pelvis and tone. This is health. And there is a hungry gap from diets. Matchstick legs, no fat, no muscles. This is not an arch, this is a crack in the fence. A man over 40 is not attracted to relics. We need life. Your beast looks for harmony. Learn to distinguish these things. Why has it become a fetish? We learn to make breasts surgically. We pump lips. But the gap between thighs is almost impossible to fake. It is a skeletal structure. You cannot widen the pelvis. In the era of silicone, this natural gap has become a marker of natural elitism. It is something that cannot be bought. You are born with it. And we value this scarcity. Epilogue. Instinct cannot be fooled. Well, my friend, we have disassembled female legs into atoms. And now the question, what to do? Stop looking? Impossible. Feel guilt? Foolish. Accept it. Accept your nature. You are a hunter of images. The fact that your heart beats faster at the sight of this triangle is a sign that you are alive, that your testosterone is in order. You are a connoisseur of rare beauty. This gap is a gift of evolution, a reminder that in a world of problems, there is something unconditionally beautiful, something that promises joy. Next time your gaze dives into this golden corridor, smile and say thank you to nature. We, men, are simple creatures. We need open doors. And as long as women wear jeans that give this illusion, we have hope. And now, the moment of truth. Go down to the comments and answer honestly. What does your beast choose? Option A, the monolith. Tight, juicy, rubbing thighs, where it is warm and cozy. Option B, the arch. Slender legs with a gap, where the wind blows and the promise of dynamics is visible. Write one letter. Let's do a roll call. And if you felt that the truth is spoken here, hit subscribe. See you on the territory of grown men.